Hey, it's Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Martin McBride, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in, one and all. We're here.
I'm here.
We're back.
We're always here. We're part of your lives, and there's no getting rid of us.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy, Mike, and Jason back again. We're going to be in the thick of it today, talking about Week 2. All the studs, all the duds, all the players we're done with, all of our rising stars, all the injuries.
The lunch bets.
Okay. Yeah, that too. So let's just get that out of the way. I lost to you two this week, thanks to Randall Cobb coming through with enough last night.
Well, what was very funny is, we're about halfway through the afternoon games. We're like, oh man, we gotta check in on this because, of course, we're obsessed with our league of record, our dynasty team, trying to figure all that out. And then I sink. I'm like, crap.
Yeah,
Jason,
I get Crabtree.
Jason, you have Crabtree,
so I win.
Game over.
And then I pull it out. I'm like, wait, no, I drafted Crabtree.
Oh,
so
darn it.
I win.
So then Andy and I were in a real tight battle, but Randall Cobb pulled it out for me.
Yep. Hey, Brooks, how'd your dynasty team do?
Oh, what are you doing over here?
One dynasty, I won.
So in your face.
Yeah, one of them.
One dynasty
what
you
happened
won?
with
One of my two dynasty leagues I won.
I see
one-
what you're doing.
the other
What
one
about
I-
the one where you faced me?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Checked.
Okay,
I haven't
didn't check the score.
No.
Good.
I'm not up to date on what happened over there.
All right, look, you can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Here's the quick question of the day before we get into the rest of what happened in Week 2. Who is the player? All right, so who's a player that you are done with after their Week 2 performance? So last week, maybe you gave him a pass. Maybe you said wait and see. Now it's time to say farewell.
I don't think I said any of these things about this player last week, but this is the confirmation, people. We have grabbed the handful of dirt and we are
Sprinkled it?
We are gently sprinkling it.
Oh, man.
We talked about him as a bust coming into the season, but LeGarrette Blount, it was bad Week 1. It was bad in the preseason. It came out before the week. They said, we're going to possibly limit his carries. Oh, they did. They limited him to the extreme, to the tune of zero carries.
Not a lot.
What we can say for LeGarrette Blount is his catch rate was 100%.
Good job.
Because he caught his only target for 0 yards. So he got you that one PPR point, but it's done. It's RIP. LeGarrette Blount he is done for your fantasy team. We'll see if anyone in Philadelphia can get anything going in that running game.
They have a good offensive line. It's so bizarre.
It makes
a decent
no sense.
offense, a good offensive line.
Yeah, but the passing, it was like 46-19 or something like that.
Because they can't run.
I've never seen more backfields, and Jason's about to talk about one. I've never seen more backfields that are just useless than we've seen so far this year with Detroit, with New York, with
Philly, and now let me talk about who I'm done with up there in Seattle. Who I'm really done with more than anything is the Seattle offensive line. I mean, goodness gracious. Now, Chris Carson got enough work, and he has clearly since preseason, since camp, Week 1, Week 2, he has looked good. We'll talk about him on the waiver wire show, I'm sure. But I am 100% done with the Thomas Rawls, Eddie Lacy conundrum, competition. There is none.
They're done with Lacy too, apparently.
They're done with Lacy.
Lacy was a healthy scratch.
In fact,
so
Thomas
could
Rawls
not quite put up those blunt numbers.
Thomas Rawls almost. He almost matched him. He just needed that one catch for nothing. But they combined, Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy combined for 5 carries for 4 yards.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's real cool.
Done. Write him off. Cut him.
Yeah. Well, I had Thomas Rawls as my starting running back. See, here's the situation.
Oh man, it's getting emotional.
Don't
get emotional, Andy.
I'm done with Rawls, and I'm done with Bilal Powell.
Oh, blow, blow,
Blah,
blow.
Last week I lost David Johnson.
Blow, blow.
And I went out and I made some moves, and the running backs that I picked up ended up with me starting Rawls and Powell for less than 2 points.
Blow, blow.
Powell played 18 of 56 snaps. Forte was much better, and then Elijah McGuire was on the field.
Blow, 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 blow.
You're on a terrible team, Bilal,
Blow.
and you're worthless. And it sucks.
Oh, that was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but Bilal Powell is – I will say this, and it counteracts me starting him, but he was too old to be a part of their future, so clearly they're trying to rotate Elijah McGuire in, and Jason has made the point that they are trying their best to lose all their games, so
He might be too good for that team.
this makes perfect sense. The problem was I played him thinking, you know what, I'm going to bench AP because AP – yeah, it's just not going to be there. They're probably playing from behind, not going to catch the ball. At least Powell will get 5 or 6 targets. Nope. Blah, blah.
Blow, blow.
All right, well, I haven't quite recovered from this weekend's endeavors, but let's go ahead and get into the rewind.
Weekly Rewind.
Finding running backs is hard. It's hard to do.
That's why we say stock up in your draft.
Yeah. All right, well, Sam Bradford didn't play. Late scratch
That
Sunday morning.
escalated very quickly.
Yeah, did you
throughout
see
the week.
him warm up? Did you see what the
I
warm
did
up
not
was?
see it.
Either of you?
Yeah, I did.
He stood there like a statue and threw a ball twice, and then it was like, "Yep, I can't move. I'm done."
Ian Rappaport said the ACL's fine. Other ligaments are fine. It's a swelling and discomfort issue, and they expect him, at least as of today, Monday, September 18th, they expect him to play in Week 3.
What's crazy is that the MRI was hard to read because of the amount of scar tissue from the previous surgery. So I think they weren't – I mean, it's rare that you get an MRI and aren't confident in the results where you're like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at here.
Well, the best part was Mike Zimmer saying he's fine. He's either going to miss this week and he'll play next week, or he'll miss 6 weeks. Right. But either way, he's fine.
That does not mean fine, Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, he doesn't know what that means.
So, for fantasy purposes, I think some of it was the defense of the Steelers, but Sam Bradford is a much better quarterback, and he fits this system. He was good with these wide receivers. You're going to have to pay attention to this, not just for Bradford, but if you are a Kyle Rudolph owner, a
Stephon Diggs, 2 for
Stephon
27.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Is not good with Adam.
Yeah, Adam Thielen had a few catches too, but it's a huge downgrade for all of those pieces. It's a downgrade for Dalvin Cook because you cannot and do not have to honor the passing game. 5 for 44 for Thielen. Both of them went way down my rankings at the last minute on Sunday. Rudolph too. All right, Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson did what owners dream of if you're playing against Jordy Nelson with the game on the line, which is start the game, instantly get hurt, and then score 0 points.
Yeah, but for everyone else.
For anybody who owned him, you're worried, and he left with a quad injury. He remained questionable throughout the game until the very end of the fourth quarter. They moved him to out. He was seen essentially on the exercise bike. We think this is a contusion of some sort, but hopefully he'll be back next week because they missed him.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an entire season of seeing how this offense can be hurt and fall apart without Jordy Nelson, at least fall from the from the place.
Unstoppable reaches.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Randall Cobb, left with a shoulder injury, was looking great in this game.
Yes, he was.
When it comes to the Packers as a whole, I don't remember the last time I saw a team that went from healthy week 1 to – I mean, they lost both starting tackles before last night. They lost their 2 starting wide receivers. They lost cornerbacks and safeties. I mean, they went from a healthy team that with a defense that looked good to now all of a sudden it's like just like last year. Last year, early on in the season, they lost so many pieces that I feel bad for any Packers fans out there listening.
Well, and Rodgers didn't.
Sorry,
Rodgers never had the opportunity. Now, it's a testament to Aaron Rodgers what he pulled together towards the end of this game because he actually gave you a fine fantasy game. But he didn't have any of those opportunities to sit in the pocket for 2 seconds, to wait for something to develop downfield, and he was working with Geronimo Allison, Martellus Bennett.
Looked like Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he did. Rob Gronkowski dealing with a groin injury.
My groin.
Ian Rappaport says that it is not believed to be serious. Gronkowski himself said he is fine. But is it the Zimmer fine or is it the real fine?
That word's getting thrown around a lot these days. I think he'll be okay. He was on the bike.
You think I'm fine after Bilal Powell and Thomas Rawls?
No.
It's definitely scary. I mean, when you've got a guy that's dealt with injuries, a groin is something that, you could be, quote, fine, and then next game he goes out, hurts it in the first quarter, and sits.
Yes. Yeah, a groin injury is
Now, Gronkowski was
dominant.
So people were happy to see that. But the injuries to the tight end position, they continued. Greg Olsen broke his foot out 6 to 8 weeks.
Having surgery, so put him on your IR or cut him. I mean,
Does this help McCaffrey?
I don't think it helps McCaffrey. Anybody. Yeah, the one guy that it might help is Kelvin Benjamin, because when you're looking downfield,
it's interesting. I would think it would help the underneath guy because Olsen is generally in the slot.
Yeah, Greg Olsen's so important to this offense. I think it just
only
hurts everyone.
3 catches on the year is all he has for this offense. So.
Well, and we've seen the offense for the Panthers has been pretty bad.
You know what's funny is you're right. They won again. And Cam Newton's actual production in the passing game, all the metrics are very good. He didn't like his performance, but his completion percentage was in the 60s this week. He protected the ball, and I'm just kind of intrigued by the fact that his actual, accuracy was improved in this game. So we'll see what happens. Jordan Reed diagnosed with an AC joint sprain, returned later in the game. Jordan Reed is always hurt in at least 3 different places on his body.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a fractured toe, chest, AC, everything. It's just top to bottom. This is why I was avoiding him this year. And going forward, I mean, how do you trust a guy that gets injured this often? I mean,
you mix it with how the offense has looked, and that's trouble.
This is putrid.
Are you? I mean, if you're a Jordan Reed owner, right? You're worried, you're struggling. Are you two? I know my answer, but are you two? Would you consider trying to buy Jordan Reed cheap because the owner might be off of him?
I would consider it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely consider it because of what he can do. But it was for that beginning. LeGarrette Blount for the player I'm done with. That was because people need to hear LeGarrette Blount. My close second was not a done, like this is final, but Kirk Cousins. I mean, what has happened to that offense? Jason, you can ride around on your victory bike.
Yeah,
right
it's a
now.
Vespa.
But you can't ride around on that with the Falcons. You're 50-50 on the offenses you hated.
That wasn't on my bold predictions show, though. That was
But I mean, it was what happened. I mean, Kirk Cousins he looked terrified. I mean, he was not willing to throw the ball.
He was actually fine. Like, I mean, as an NFL quarterback, he was conservative, 22 for 27. They just wanted to run the ball. I mean, P. Ryan had 21 carries after Robert Kelley. I'm just saying, like, this was a Gruden decision to basically run it down their throat, figure they'll survive.
Yes, but I'm saying when given the opportunity to pass, you would see him look and go, oh, no, and he would just dump it short. I mean, there was very few deep shots taken, which
Agreed.
That's not the normal Kirk Cousins MO.
Yeah, well, they got an offensive coordinator change and a lot of missing weapons in the passing game, and they won the game. Keep that in mind.
Right.
Like, they go, okay, we ran the ball, we were super conservative with the offense, and we pulled out a W.
Let's stay there with Rob Kelley. Might have a fractured rib after he was running and rumbling.
He was looking fantastic.
They were moving and shaking, that offensive line, and Rob Kelley was getting downhill, and it was tough to stop. So Rob Kelley, though, a fractured rib. I did a little of my own research because I may or may not have Samaje Perine on my roster, and I wanted to see this recovery time. If you fracture your rib, I mean, I think you're talking at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, it's a fractured rib for a running back, I think, is always pain tolerance. They'll put him in the jacket, in a flak jacket, and see, can you be effective? Are you able to play through it? So this will be all on Rob Kelley.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when you have a bruised rib, it's different than if you fracture the rib.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to maybe Trent Richardson didn't actually break a rib.
Yeah,
But he had that series of games where he was really inefficient when he had to wear the jacket. So I'm not excited for Rob Kelley to wear one.
He's still going to miss 2 to 3.
When he took the jacket off, he was also very inefficient.
That's so fair.
Yeah, they basically said it'll depend on whether the fracture is displaced. It'll depend on whether or not, you shoot him up with pain medicine. But I would expect a minimum of a 2-game miss for him if he has a fractured rib.
Yeah.
So that's going to make Pirine one of the targets in the waiver wire segment that we get into tomorrow. All right, DeMarco Murray, not a good 2 first games. Precautionary second half exit due to hamstring tightness.
And team dominance.
Yeah, that game went from 3-3 to
at halftime. It was like there's no points being scored, and then I look up and it's like 30.
But part of that was Derrick Henry, who had a great game. So do we
career high?
I mean, we have been staunch DeMarco Murray supporters on this show. Murray has shown to be inefficient. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but now we're dealing with hamstring.
I think it's his job, and that's
still.
That's where I'll start on the conversation. Is the job is DeMarco Murray? They're not going to take the job from him if he's healthy. Then you have to address the health piece. Does he come back and play him? Does it take him 3 weeks to get back from a hamstring soreness, or not? I mean, that's a different evaluation. I don't think there's any circumstance in which a healthy DeMarco Murray is taking a back seat as of his performance so far.
Yeah, I mean, this next week I could see if they limit his reps. They've got Seattle Seahawks, a good run D.
Carlos Hyde did not think so.
That is certainly true. I mean, man, the Seahawks as a team did not look good.
They're struggling.
All right, I want to talk about this situation because I've done a lot of research on it. Jordan Howard left Sunday's game. He was very bad in the limited work he got. He was very unhappy in the limited work he got. He had his arm in a sling. He has not spoken to reporters. He has skipped media portions. John Fox sounds like there's a frustration or something building there because he basically said, well, yeah, you got to talk to the player. From what I understand and from Chicago fans, there was a sense that he was phased out of the game plan now for 2 weeks in a row. And he's their best player, their superstar, so there's frustration there. How do you approach both the buy low opportunity of Jordan Howard and the fact he's been terrible? I mean, there are people, a lot of people.
He was okay
that
in week 1. He was okay.
Yeah, he had the touchdown. But he was phased out of the offense to the degree that Tariq Cohen had a massive usage in that game. There are a lot of people that drafted, David Johnson and then Howard in the second round, and you're wanting to start Thomas Rawls and Bilal Powell because you don't have anybody.
I mean, it's rough. I don't know any of those other pieces. What I know is that he's been dealing with a shoulder injury, and it was clearly worse than they let on through the week because he was not able to finish the game. So that's where I'm putting my stock in that it is an injury. He is still their best grinder. But how bad is his shoulder messed up? That's the question. And we don't have answers on Monday morning.
Would you buy him low right now? Somebody's going to be – he is one of the highest candidates for tilt right now. DeMarco Murray is one of them. I think there'll be people trading DeMarco Murray. I think there'll be people trading Jordan Howard. So and they'll be trading Isaiah Crowell.
Right. I think I would still buy low on Jordan Howard.
Okay. All right. Rex Burkhead left the game with a rib injury, just adding to the laundry list of problems that the Patriots have because Dorsett also left the game with a knee injury, and we're down to
2 wide receivers, 2 total.
Yes. They had 3 active wide receivers.
You know what's funny is before the season, it was one of those situations where it was like Tom Brady looks great, but I don't want to deal with any of the pass-catching options because there's too many. You're not going to know if it goes to Malcolm Mitchell. You're not going to know if it goes Chris Hogan or Cooks or Amendola or Edelman there's just too many. Now it's Hogan.
Well, James White is just
Cooks.
a core integral piece of the offense. That's the takeaway here is James White will be involved each and every week, and I would target James White because I don't think that the perceived value of James White it matches the actual value of James White.
I hope you bought him last week
when
we were talking about it.
But still, he was a 13-point week. I mean, he had a good week, but I still think you can buy him cheaper than what he's worth.
Amendola will be back. I'm just saying he will be back.
No, it's a good point.
Is that from his publicist or?
No, he'll be back and then he'll be gone.
Okay.
And then he'll be back and then he'll be gone.
When he comes back, you will play him for 3 quarters.
Exactly.
And you'll get a full game's worth of value.
That was my only point.
Very unfortunate. Corey Davis exited with a hamstring injury, didn't return to the game for Tennessee.
And the other Corey.
Yeah,
I mean,
Corey
the battle
Coleman.
of the 80s Corys. Corey Coleman broke his hand. I mean, this guy has hand issues.
It's the same thing that happened last year.
Well, there was, I believe, his thumb.
That's part of your hand, right?
No, I got it. But I mean, when you say I broke my hand or I broke my thumb,
You don't have 5 fingers. You have 4 fingers. That's a thumb. That's what you.
Are you preemptively striking on Twitter with that one?
No, I'm mocking Mike for discluding the thumb from the hand.
I'm not discluding
What
it.
does discluding mean? That is not a word.
It sure is.
Discluding?
Just
Brooks,
saying that
Brooks, shake your head one way or another.
No, he's giving
He's
me
saying
the
no.
Darn it.
Discluding the thumb. All
I
right.
disclude your argument, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to get into the stud muffins. Before we do that, we want to thank the sponsors of today's show. Look, this one, both of our sponsors of today's show, this goes out to the business owners, the business leaders out there. Tell me if you said any of these things. Why is it taking accounting so long to close your books? Why am I not getting sales information on a real-time basis? We beat our revenue goal, but we lost money. What do you mean we're getting audited? Look, it sounds like, if those are the questions you're asking, that you've outgrown your business management software. And QuickBooks and spreadsheets, they may have worked fine at the beginning of your business, but now there's too many mistakes, too many delays, and you got to get fast answers. I want to tell you about the #1 business management software solution for growing companies, and that is NetSuite from Oracle. NetSuite lets you see what's going on in your business in real time. We're talking revenue, expenses, customers, orders, even HR, and you can run it from a dashboard on your phone if you want to. And with hands-on help, you're up and running really quick. That's why thousands of companies across America use NetSuite. They're 10 times larger than the nearest competitor, and it's the last system you will need as a business owner. So go to netsuite.com/fantasy to get your free guide called Overcoming Your 5 Obstacles to Growth. That's netsuite.com/fantasy to get your free guide and find out how NetSuite can simplify your life. Go to netsuite.com/fantasy.
Yeah, and all the business owners out there or anyone in a position to hire, if you are hiring, we've said this before, you want to use ZipRecruiter. I know, my former company that we ran, hiring was the most important part of succeeding or failing. It was, do you have the right employees? And finding them is not always easy. In fact, finding them is usually very difficult, but ZipRecruiter makes it much, much easier. And not only easier, but better in the sense that they are going to match the right candidates for you. 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within just 24 hours. You don't have to go through 100 different job sites. You go through one place, and it posts to 100-plus job sites. So find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, our listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/footballers. That's ZipRecruiter.com/footballers. One more time, try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/footballers.
All right, some breaking news. Tyler Eifert was feeling jealous about all the injuries at the tight end position. He's apparently battling back now from knee and back issues, and his status is uncertain for Week 3 in Lambeau. It could be another long week for Andy Dalton, a player that I think was eligible for consideration in the players we're done with, but I'm not going to go that far. They changed their offensive coordinator. Bill Lazor is now the offensive coordinator, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to turn things around, although mutiny.
Say, where's the opportunity going to happen, though? Is it on the waiver wire, or is it on your bench?
It's going to be on the waiver wire because that's where he belonged anyway. You're streaming Andy Dalton. You're not locking him in as your year-long starter. By the way, this just in as well. Disclude is apparently a word.
Yes!
However, its normal meaning is to disclose or to make known. So
Totally fine.
You would basically
that's what I meant.
say,
no, that's what I meant.
hey, I discluded some information about Bilal Powell's snap count.
What?
And it
that
was very
– that sounds worse than than how I used it.
Well, there is the secondary meaning, which is to exclude.
Oh, in your face? Judge Giamatti gave me a negative head shake. I disclude your head shake, sir. All
right, moving on.
This week's Fantasy Stud Muffins.
Do not be quick to disclude Jason's words.
Right?
Right?
The point still stands. And also, this just in, Tom Brady's very good.
Is that a disclusion?
Yes, I would like to disclude to everybody. So so it could either mean inclusion or exclusion?
You can
What kind of word means opposite things from itself? That's my kind of word.
Oh, the English language.
Tom Brady, Trevor Siemian, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, and Derek Carr, the quarterback stud muffins of the week. Brady went hamburger and fries, 447 and 3, and didn't really do anything in the second half because he didn't need to. Siemian, very impressive first 2 weeks. In fact, Siemian and Wentz both perfectly startable the first 2 weeks, more than startable.
Let me pause there and just give a shout-out to Mike.
Yeah, baby.
And also an advertisement, if you will, to the DFS pod that the Fantasy Footballers are doing every Friday that Mike is hosting.
You're talking about the Fantasy Footballers DFS show on iTunes?
What a great name, Andy. Yeah, the Fantasy Footballers DFS show on iTunes. That, if you listened this past week, you saw that Mike's stack was his recommended stack for big games was Trevor Siemian and Emmanuel Sanders.
That felt good.
Yeah, that stack won some people
good.
a lot of money. Or, you can still get information for. I mean, you're just talking fantasy football information. So no matter whether you play DFS or not, if you want more fantasy footballers, listen to the DFS show.
I can testify to this fact. Sitting on the couch, no high five was smacked harder than the ones that Mike had for that stack because he was well invested on winning you some cash. All right, Carson Wentz. 25 for 46 pass attempts, 333 and 2. Look, 46 pass attempts alone, all of a sudden Carson Wentz looks like you can start him every week. I mean, I don't care what else happens. If you're passing the ball 46 times, pretty good defense, even though Barry was out.
Andy he's always one of those guys that can have a game like this one where he adds 55 yards on the ground. When you have that baseline, we talk about that with like Tyrod Taylor, that means you're going to be fantasy safe. That your floor raises up when you are a running quarterback or have the ability to. So I think Carson Wentz is he's a weekly.
He's interesting.
He's a guy you need to look at.
Gets the Giants next week. Still interested?
Is at home at least?
Less interested, but think about this past week, right? Kansas City, not the best matchup. But there weren't good streaming options. We said this was one of the harder weeks in our memory of picking a good streaming option. When you're in that situation, I think Carson Wentz, because of volume and legs, I would be interested.
Volume and legs. Drew Brees.
Legs and volume. Volume and legs.
Derek Carr. Carr has really impressed me so far this year. I'm excited for what Oakland can do with what they have on both sides of the ball right now. Carr was hyper efficient, 28 pass attempts, right? So you've got 18 less than Carson Wentz. Still threw an extra touchdown. All of them went to Crabtree.
Oh,
Michael Crabtree getting it done once again. Anybody else you want to mention at the quarterback position? I mean, I think Siemian, people want to know, do you pick him up? He's got Buffalo next week. I think you could stream him easily.
Absolutely. He's looked good 2 weeks in a row, and he's got great receiving options. His offensive line is better.
Buffalo and then Oakland.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not terrible.
Stream it up.
Yeah.
You know what was crazy about how dominant Denver was is they had the perfect balance of pass run. Dallas would not be able to stop the run, not be able to stop the run, not be able to stop the run, and then right when they'd stack the box, he'd make a play. He's got Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. It was pretty impressive all the way around. All right, the running back stud muffins of the week, we keep it right there in Denver. C.J. Anderson had, I believe, the highest week of any running back this week, 30-something points in our league of record, 25 for 118 and 1, caught 3 for 36 and a touchdown through the air, and continues to do what we know, which is when he's healthy, he's pretty good.
Yes.
Is this a level up for C.J. Anderson this year? Are we waiting for the injury to happen?
Yeah, I think it's just he's really healthy right now. And I know it's narrative and everything, but he did talk about this offseason that he has changed some things up, the way that he is approaching the game, approaching his health. And he was frequently one of those players who would show up to training camp out of shape. So if he's really doing the right things to be a professional and take care of his body, I mean, I wouldn't. He's still a more fragile running back than others. But right now, you ride Anderson. I'm not selling him, but I'm probably not buying him because the price is going to be too high.
One more thought on Anderson that I have is, we talk most of the time the handcuff doesn't become relevant until the end of the year. But I think in Denver, with what I've seen with my eyes of Jamal Charles, you should acquire him. Because if you have the stack of C.J. Anderson and Charles, I think you're insured a very productive fantasy running back for the duration of the year. Charles has looked quick, fast. I think he's averaging 5.2 yards a touch this year, which is impressive through 2 games. I don't think that there's any question that if C.J. Anderson went down, you'd see a significant increase in the workload for Charles that would translate to fantasy points. Do you agree?
I agree. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. So I 100% agree. We have two
You were going to disclude that for the people?
We have too large a history of knowing that C.J. Anderson playing 16 games probably isn't going to happen. And when he goes down, Jamal Charles will be relevant.
Okay. Ty Montgomery, start of the week. Dominated last night. Looked great. Didn't have enough. This is the beautiful thing about Ty Montgomery, right? Game script was disgusting. And still put up, I think, the second highest week for a fantasy running back this week because of his production through the air. 6 for 75 and a touchdown on 7 targets. And it's only going to get better for Montgomery in the target department if Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb miss time. And if the offensive line can't hold up, those little shovel passes, those little screen passes, they're just going to be part of the repertoire. And he got basically every snap in this game.
Yeah,
there's nothing
he's
to
a
argue.
full workhorse.
All right, we got to talk about Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley through 2 games, 20-plus fantasy points per game, on pace for over 800 receiving yards if this trend continues. 3 for 48 and a touchdown through the air, 16 for 88, which, by the way, the 88 yards on the ground is the most since the 4 games in his rookie year. 1 touchdown on the ground. The offense seems capable of moving the ball in extended drives. Todd Gurley, what are your thoughts on Mr. Gurley for the remainder of the season?
Look, I think he was showing some stuff you hoped to see this last game. He looked better than he has. I'm still not a believer long term. I think that you can get value from him that is very high right now. People are now buying into Todd Gurley is the Todd Gurley, the elite Todd Gurley. I might hold on to him for one more week. They play the 49ers coming up. If he puts back-to-back-to-back games to start the season, then you're going to be able to sell him very, very high, and those are 3 matchups where I expect he could. Now, you might not want to sell him because he will hold value. He's not going to just collapse because he's
on the field the whole game.
His volume and his usage now in the passing.
You know who he
game,
reminds me of? I think he's Melvin Gordon. I think he's in the exact same situation as Melvin Gordon was last year, where Melvin Gordon wasn't, now this game, to Gurley's credit, 5.5 a carry. But
not a good enough offense. That's the huge difference to me. I think
you got to remember last year's offense for Los Angeles, it wasn't exactly a world beater offense. This was a team that lost a ton of games. I think I'm seeing the same things. I'm seeing him always on the field, always targeted.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Mike. I want to hear what Mike has to say.
What do you got, Mike?
I've been saying that for years, that they're the same guy. Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon are both not the best running backs, but the volume is incredible, and they're gonna be okay for fantasy. I would probably still rather have Gordon right now at this moment, but you gotta give credit where it's due. Gurley looked fantastic in the passing game. I'm with Jason that I'm still not bought into the resurgence of the running game. Could be. I mean, they spent a lot of money to improve that offensive line, but
I'm gonna change my when I said you could also hold on to him because I don't think he is actually a very good running back. I think he's just really capitalizing on situation. I'm gonna hold him for another week, play him against the 49ers, and then I am going to trade him. Listen to his schedule coming up after Cowboys. After that's fine, but this schedule is brutal for a big chunk of the season. Seahawks, Jaguars, Cardinals, Giants, Texans, Vikings.
That's rough.
That's not like, okay, you got a 2-game stretch where it's going to be hard. That's 6 games in a row where you've got like 6 of the top 10 defenses.
Yeah, but
Seattle got ran on. Cardinals haven't shown that they can stop the run.
It's the passing game that changes everything for Gurley. When we saw that transition last year of actually getting him involved, he'll be sustainable. You're not going to get sustainable top 5 type of numbers from him, but I think he'll end up going back to that fine running back 2.
All right, we need to move on. Kareem Hunt had another great week. Devonta Freeman, Chris Thompson, Buck Allen, Melvin Gordon, Carlos Hyde, and then a little garbage time for Jalen Richard. So pick a name out that you want to talk about fantasy-wise from that group of stud muffins.
I'm going to talk about Chris Thompson real quick because
Steeler.
he got him. He's a guy that we have liked on this show for years, and because he flashes, he passes the eye test, he's the passing down back for a good offense, well, what was supposed to be a good offense, but it's never really come through. The fantasy power for Chris Thompson just like he catches some passes, it just never has happened. But now 2 weeks in a row, I mean, granted they're on big plays that are not sustainable, but Chris Thompson, you're shaking your head?
I'm shaking my head because it's not going to happen again. I mean, I know he'll be a big buy this week if Robert Kelley misses time, but Thompson's been in this situation with injuries in front of him before, and it's just if you get in the end zone, you're really happy. If you don't, the volume, even in this game, where the Pirine confidence would be at the lowest it could possibly be, what was it, 6 touches?
Yeah, that's really true.
That's the problem. Yeah. And Pirine had 21 carries after that time. They didn't throw Thompson out there. So I'm just saying be careful. It doesn't mean you don't have value, but he's still more in the Shane Vereen category than he is a starting fantasy running back to me.
Sure. Javorius Allen, Buck Allen, that's the guy I would talk about. Because on the flip side to having only 6 touches, you've got
42
basically
snaps.
back-to-back weeks of around 20 touches. If you get, in any team, anywhere, if you're getting 20 touches a week, you will be fantasy relevant. He's involved in the passing game like we thought he would. He caught 5 balls for 35 yards and a touchdown. I really like what I'm seeing there, and I don't think he's going to be like right now and for the next 7 weeks until Danny Woodhead comes back. Buck Allen is going to be a weekly starter. You're going to start him pretty much every single week. When he comes back, I don't necessarily know that Buck Allen is just gone and that they won't use him and involve him at all.
Buck Allen's great, and you need to sell Terrence West. Sell him while he's getting you the periodic touchdown, because he was in. Alex Collins played, I think, 8 snaps. I think West played like 16, something like. Could you check on that for me? The breakdown was 42 snaps for Buck Allen to 16, I believe, for Terrence West. And when Terrence West scores and gives you double digits, that's when I would sell a guy. Personally.
Yeah. He only had 8 carries for 22 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions.
That's terrible. That's goal line back work. That's what that is.
22% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, he will get the goal line, but I just hate banking on goal line. Like, I'd rather start Javorius every week.
I would have talked about Javorius Allen, but I was saving him for our next our upcoming section, so I'll just point people back to this when the time comes.
So much to talk about. All right, wide receivers that had monster weeks. Michael Crabtree, 3 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders, a pair of touchdowns. J.J. Nelson.
Yep, that's the
5 for 120 and 1. I got a lot of grief for recommending him after John Brown went down. John Brown. I said that at the beginning of the week. Like the second they started talking about John Brown not playing, J.J. Nelson just has a rapport with Palmer that Jerron Brown, that Golden don't have, and the weapons are limited. They couldn't run the ball. They can't run the ball. They played pretty darn bad in this game, but J.J. Nelson, 5 for 120 and a touchdown. I think you pick him up.
Oh, yeah, he's absolutely worth a pickup.
For sure, because it looks like right now John Brown's going to miss multiple weeks, and if that happens, J.J. Nelson will be relevant.
Yeah,
Larry
Dallas,
Fitzgerald
San Francisco.
has not looked that great. He's not been involved. Devontae Adams, to me, was a guy, I was trying to recommend him anywhere and everywhere that I could.
That touchdown catch was
awesome.
Amazing.
And he's made those a lot. I mean, you're talking about 10 targets, 8 receptions, basically 100 yards and a touchdown. You're going to be fine with that. Jermaine Kearse, kind of got to keep a look up for. I mean, he still only had 5 targets.
Yeah.
But
he's the number one, and I think I heard on the broadcast yesterday he's kind of the, he's a man among boys in that offensive room, in the wide receiver room.
He's the only NFL wide receiver that they have.
That would be a good way to put it. So he's worth a flyer. Big game from Evans. Jeffrey, nice to see him have a solid game. The alien. Martavis Bryant, 3 for 91 and 1 on 4 targets. So welcome to the normal Martavis.
That's Bryant
line. You also had a rush. I saw an in-around. Jarvis Landry, 13. 13 receptions.
Talk about him in a second as well.
Des Bryant lived up to what Mike said.
Yeah, baby.
Struggled mightily in this game. I mean, 15 targets, only 7 receptions on those targets, and yet it didn't matter. I mean, there's 2 ways to look at that. One is that Bryant continues to struggle against top DBs. It's just a fact. The other is they pepper him with targets regardless, and he's their only red zone option. So you're going to see this situation, I think, down the line. I think you have 3 matchups the rest of the way where you don't have a premier name-worthy corner covering him. But I still want him.
Well, yeah. I mean, 2 of them are coming up here. He has to take on Arizona. That'll be a tough matchup with Patrick Peterson. But then the Rams and Green Bay.
Trumaine Johnson.
I'm not worried about Dez in those 2 matchups.
Hogan had a good game, 5 for 78 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, 9 for 100 on 10 targets.
Yeah, baby.
Brandon Coleman and Rashard Higgins, who I think needs to be talked about. We'll talk about him tomorrow on the waiver show.
Brandon Coleman was a thorn in my butt this week. I was watching the game with Brooks and just getting all these receptions. I'm like, is that freaking Brandon Coleman again?
Gronkowski, Kelley, Witten once again, 10 receptions for Witten. Game script played a huge part in that. They were pretty much just catching up from the beginning. Delaney Walker, 4 for 61 and had a rushing touchdown. Ben Watson
needs to be talked about because I think a lot of people – he's going to be the one that is completely under the radar. People don't realize what he did because when they're going and looking at everybody's rosters and looking at their league scoreboard, they're not going to see Ben Watson because he's not even on somebody's bench. He's out on the waivers, and he was really involved. I loved Ben Watson early this offseason because I was hoping he would go into that Dennis Pitta role. Then it looked like he wasn't even the starting tight end. But now we have 1 game for Baltimore, just 1, where they actually were not, up by, 3 scores with 5 Andy Dalton turnovers. And in that single game where they had to throw the ball a little bit, 6 what did he get? Ben Watson had 8 receptions for 91 yards. That's the Dennis Pitta role, and if you're in a PPR league, pick him up. There's so many.
You could do a lot worse.
If you had Greg Olsen, if you had, maybe even Tyler Eifert or all these guys that are getting injured, yeah, you could do worse than Ben Watson.
Okay, I also want to throw in the Buccaneers D had a great performance against Chicago this week. They have Minnesota next week, and so if Minnesota
if it's Keenum,
they're a great start again, and then they have the Giants after that. Not exactly intimidating right now.
Yeah, that's 2 solid plays.
Something to pay attention to.
Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week.
This one might be quick. We've kind of talked about all 3 guys, but let's just throw them out there. Who you're picking out as your rising star, Mike?
It's Buck Allen. It's the snaps. It's 42 of the 68 snaps. This is how crazy the NFL is. Last year, the team wanted absolutely nothing to do with Buck Allen. It was Kenneth Dixon coming in to replace him, Terrence West, what looked like an adequate running back. And now an injury they added Danny Woodhead in the offseason to a nice contract for a guy of his age. And they're like, okay, well, now Buck Allen's our guy, and we're going to roll with him. So he is absolutely my rising star, getting the snaps. He's the pass catcher. You always want a running back who has that part of his game, but then 14 carries on top of that. Those are absolutely sensational numbers. Tariq Cohen was the hot pickup week 1 because
Allen was the cheap
we
pickup.
all anticipated. Well, you saw Allen out carry Terrence West in week 1. You're like, well, fourth quarter, Allen really padded his stats with carries and everything. Maybe this could be the truth here for Buck Allen, and he ends up being the steal of the waiver wire.
Yeah, and the nice thing is he's actually looked good as well. My rising star, without a doubt, is Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is a guy that, as time has gone on with Jay Cutler, has just been falling in all of our hearts. I mean, the average draft position of Jarvis Landry just got lower and lower and lower. The closer to the season we got, it's gonna be Parker. Jarvis isn't going to get that involved, and he was more involved than he was with Ryan Tannehill. I mean, you're talking about 15 targets. Now, we were joking through the game. It's funny. His line is his targets aren't that quite as valuable, right? His line was 13 receptions for only 78 yards. That's
an accomplishment.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to have that few yards with 13 receptions in the NFL. But he's good. He's involved. If you're in any kind of PPR half, full, Jarvis Landry is going to be awesome. He's going to be safe. And I think that Jay Cutler can move the ball. His upcoming schedule, is great. The Jets, the Saints, the Titans.
Hey, it's something that we said. Landry is too good of a player. There cannot be an overreaction there. He's too good of a player to be ignored. C.J. Anderson, we've made the case. We've talked about C.J. Anderson. Great game. He's my rising star of the week. I think Anderson is just in a great position with an offense that seems to have taken a step forward in some degree, and so Anderson is the lead back there. The defense puts them in a position to be leading a lot of games, so as long as Anderson stays healthy, I think you're going to see the wear-down type of back that he is. And, look, the thing about Anderson is from snap 1 to snap 50, you get the same effort from him. He's always out there grinding it out, so I like that. So those were Buck Allen, C.J. Anderson, Jarvis Landry, the Raising Cane's Rising Stars of the Week. Remember, game day tastes better with Raising Cane's tailgates full of fresh 24-hour marinated, hand-battered chicken fingers. And fresh brewed sweet tea. Visit raisingcanes.com. Find your nearest location. All right, guys, it's time to air the dirty laundry.
Pooped in his big boy pants.
Whoo!
All right, well,
Some dirty pants.
Not a good game from Tyrod Taylor.
No.
Struggled. Now has Denver, Atlanta, who has a pass rush that could give him trouble. Tyrod Taylor needs to be on your waiver wire.
Yes, for this
especially
week.
coming up with Denver. No way. You're not going to play him there. Andy Dalton never took off his pants from week 1. He just kept going
He's
right
got
in
2 weeks worth of dirty pants.
Yep.
Wow.
Time to do some laundry, Dalton. Did you hear Mike Florio was saying that some of the actual players there were calling for Kaepernick?
It's a reflect
For Kaepernick?
Oh yeah.
They're bypassing McCarron?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is
that's players. That's not going to happen. This is just it shows that
players
he's losing the locker room.
Yes, exactly what I was going to say. Players pushed out their offensive coordinator. Players, they said, were near mutiny about the offensive coordinator. Marvin Lewis is not long for this roster. They got an impossible matchup right now against Green Bay up in Lambeau this week. Lewis could get fired if they lose to Cleveland.
I was going to say
in week 4.
Cleveland's probably the breaking point. If they go 0-4 and lose to the Browns, you think he survives?
I do not. I think at that point
I don't know how he survived this long though. It's very Jeff Fisher. 15 years, 0 playoff wins with good teams.
That's the same amount of playoff wins I have.
Yeah.
That's identical. Cam Newton, Blake Bortles, Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, despite the win. This is what we've seen from Winston, right? We've seen the good matchups for Winston result in mediocre fantasy production. 18 for 30 for 204-1 because they want to run the ball. Jaquiz had 19 carries. When Winston's in these highly competitive matchups, that's when you see him kind of come out and have success, Mike. You talked about that in the preseason. When he's in these matchups that you think are bad, Winston's actually produced.
Now, I will say, it's their first game, right, because their week 1 schedule got all messed up. He did have at least 2 shots to DJs that I can remember that just barely missed. So they're going to take those shots to Deshaun. So I'm not concerned about James, or I say I'm not jumping off completely of what Jameis can do moving forward.
Marcus Mariota, I think this was a result of he was 15 for 27 for 215 and a touchdown, 6 for 24 on the ground. The Jacksonville defense, you're going to have to consider them with your quarterback starts this year. They're going to be in that echelon, I think, of teams that could cause some problems. But Mariota, obviously in the second half they wore him down. What do you think about Mariota this week? Were you disappointed in that production against Jacksonville?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed. But I will say this for all quarterbacks. It wasn't the greatest week yet again, because if you're looking at just actual fantasy points, a guy like Deshaun Watson ended up right now in standard leagues. He's the number 7 guy. Of course, there's 2 more quarterbacks to play, but the only thing separating
number
him,
7,
yeah,
the only
it
thing,
was a down week. For
that's
all
what I mean.
quarterbacks.
The only thing separating Deshaun Watson and Jameis about 5 points. So while it feels terrible and it feels like they crapped your team, it was a bad week. Unless you had
Tom Brady.
Yeah, unless you had Brady, Wentz, or Simeon. And I'll even throw
Carr and Breeze, yeah.
But after that, you're like, yeah, I'm really disappointed. Even Aaron Rodgers, who's the 6th quarterback of the week, you feel disappointed.
Yeah, I don't feel disappointed with Aaron Rodgers, but yes, I agree with your overall point. Marcus Mariota is a guy, though, that last year we saw he has the widest gap between when he faces top Ds and bottom Ds. You weren't sure what Jacksonville was, but we do know that Seattle this upcoming week is a top passing D. So I'm not expecting great things for Mariota this coming week as well.
By the way, Randall Cobb is undergoing an MRI on the shoulder to find out what's going on. All right, running back poopers. Ezekiel Elliott.
That's the big one.
Worst game of his career, 9 rushes for 8 yards. Okay, well.
And this is ridiculous because Denver, the passing defense is incredible. Lately, you've been able to beat them on the ground.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. And so I expected Zeke, he'll be fine. I wasn't, thinking, well, we're going to get that number 1 overall week.
I loved Zeke this week.
But,
yeah, I mean,
absolutely brutal.
He just had a terrible game.
And an update, because we have to talk about Ezekiel Elliott every freaking week. The NFL has put their I don't remember the complete legal jargon here, but essentially this week the NFL is looking to overturn.
The appeal will be decided this week. The
yes.
NFL's appeal on the suspension, on the injunction will be ruled this week. Most people expect that not to go in the favor of the NFL. And
they're saying it is happening.
It
could happen this week. Yes.
Absolutely. I think there are 3 possible outcomes there. One that guarantees it's basically a 2018 suspension situation. It's remedied in the offseason. One that pushes it down the line to later in the season potential. And then one that, if the court rules in the NFL's favor, he's suspended now. He starts next week. So, what do you do there with McFadden and Alfred Morris? I mean, I think this week might be the week to take a flyer on either guy on waiver wire just to see what happens on that.
I would still pick up McFadden.
I would as well.
I know he was inactive again.
We see weird things like that.
Yeah, but I think that's because they want to use the roster spot on someone else. He's not the change of pace guy, but he would be the starter, I believe.
All right, we've already talked about Lacy, Rawls, Powell, Howard, Murray in the poop section of the running backs. Let's talk about McCoy and Crowell.
Oof.
What are you doing with McCoy and Crowell? Crowell faced basically a situation where he had 10 carries, 37 yards, and disappeared from the game because they were playing from behind, i.e. all of last year. So anything that we thought, might change that and the commitment to the run, it didn't happen.
Good news, everyone. Crowell plays the Colts next week.
Yeah, he does.
So you can play him with confidence. The Shady situation.
Just 12 carries.
Yeah,
for 9 yards.
It was.
Still had 6 receptions.
He did. But the Buffalo offense just couldn't stay on the field. They could not sustain any kind of drives. And usually Shady McCoy counteracts any bad performance with just sheer amount of volume. Takes on Denver. It is at home. But you're not benching McCoy. At least I'm not benching McCoy. But that's a situation where you're looking at your roster construction for this week. Maybe you need to put a little more juice, season a little bit more in that flex spot for some upside.
Is it a buy low for Crowell?
Yeah.
People disappointed through 2 weeks. Would you do that with Indianapolis coming up, Cincinnati coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of what value you get. But if you're one of those running back needy teams, you could probably do worse than Isaiah Crowell. The one thing I want to say on the Shady game is I want to keep our eyes on the Carolina defense. It's hard to know if they are great, which they very well might be great because they played the Niners and Buffalo. And so no matter what, they look great. But they just might legit be one of the best defenses again, how they've been, the majority of this last decade. So we got to keep an eye on them.
All right, got nothing, a couple honorable mentions here. Nothing production-wise from the Cardinals' backfield, nothing from the Bengals' backfield this week. We talked about Blount. You saw basically nothing out of the New Orleans backfield, which is unfortunate because you have 3 pieces there. You did have Kamara had 3 catches, 50-plus yards receiving, but
Do you guys have
It's
any...
a trouble. It's a troublesome situation because they've been down by a lot in both games now.
Yeah, I know Breeze ended up fine with an okay fantasy game, but it took a full comeback effort. I mean,
Super Bowl's not looking good, dude.
Oh no,
Yeah, that's long gone.
Yeah,
they're not making the playoffs.
We've moved on. We've moved on to 2018 Super Bowl predictions.
Oh, that's what mine was all along. You didn't know that, Jay?
Oh, you
Did you
wanted
think it
the
was this
40-year-old
year?
version of Drew Brees. Got it.
Yeah.
But is there concern for the New Orleans offense?
Yes.
Not for me. I think
No?
the offense.
You think they'll get it back
I
on
think
track?
the offense is going to get on track, and they miss Willie Snead right now, and Willie Snead's coming back soon, so I'm not too concerned.
We know any offense in which the backbone is Coby Fleener has concern.
Or Willie Snead?
Hey, Brooks,
much
I
as
believe
I
we're
like
supposed
him.
to do a check. I mean, I guess we got to wait till Monday's done, but Coby Fleener's probably going to be still in the top 5 tight ends. So,
Yes.
Yeah. We all choose hills to die on, and you can die on that one.
Hey,
Amari Cooper.
He's not dead on that hill.
Wide receiver poopers. Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Terrell Pryor, Larry Fitzgerald.
Brandon Cooks
Ugh.
in the best matchup he could have possibly had. At least just, they're taking on the Saints.
he's a
on the
freaking
road.
magician, man. He knows how to make things
Houdini?
disappear. Just in – I can't stand you, Brandon Cooks.
This is why I didn't want to draft him.
Terrell Pryor obviously is disappointing people, not those that listen to me, but
Which version of you?
oh, come on. I think you worry about Terrell Pryor as
At
a
this
whole.
point, yes.
Cooper, he just got Crabtreed.
Yep.
And also Michael Crabtree is the best wide receiver for that team.
They're a great offense, and Crabtree is like locked and loaded as the goal line guy.
As he should be. He's amazing.
There you go. So honorable mentions, Hilton.
Yeah, don't play the Colts until further notice.
Look, if
once
you,
again outperformed Moncrief. That's
if
really
you
the
lose-
key point there.
if you lose your starting quarterback, it's really bad for wide receivers. You saw that with Hilton, Moncrief, Diggs, Thielen. I mean, go figure. Backup quarterbacks, not as good.
I'd go buy low on Pierre Garçon this week if you could. With the down week against Seattle, it's early in the season. If people aren't sure about him, he's a target. Ted Ginn Jr., Mike, how are you feeling about Ted Ginn?
I still actually feel okay. It was because he caught 3 balls, but he had 6 targets, and 2 of those misses were both in the end zone and narrow misses for touchdowns. So
I think you're going to see that a lot.
narrow
Narrow misses with Ted Ginn.
It's a fair point, but he's getting opportunity. And if you're not, Jason, if you're not concerned about the offense, then that means good things, in my opinion, good things moving forward for Ted Ginn.
I am on the side of I don't think it's going to happen for Ginn. You've got Snead out of the offense right now. It's an unproven situation in a new offense, and those two things and the lack of production concern me. Jordan Matthews did nothing. Kenny Britt, I think your time is done.
Yep.
I mean, Britt's doing nothing there.
He's been Higgins'd.
Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. Jimmy Graham, terrible game. He got banged up as well in this game. Charles Clay did not bounce. Like Clay,
It was a bad matchup for Clay. I did not like. I'm Mr. Clay, but Carolina is a bad matchup for tight ends.
Clay
So-
and Hooper both regressed significantly from week 1.
So Clay then against Denver, who they've been giving up points to the tight end. You saw old man Witten getting it done. He's still okay moving Clay forward.
Yeah, I mean you can beat Denver with the tight end, but I don't think it's like one of those defenses where it's locked and loaded that you will. He's okay. He'll probably be around my tight end 15, so maybe you would start him, but hopefully you've got a better option.
All right, let's go ahead and give some updates now for Monday night. The news right now is that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to test the ankle in pre-warm-ups. If you had to do, let's play in and out with Odell Beckham Jr. today, I am voting out.
Ooh. I'm going in.
Yeah, I think I lean out.
And here's the deal. I've had a ton of Twitter messages. They say the same thing. They say, look, if Odell Beckham Jr. is active, I need 4 points to win. Do you play Beckham or do you play Shepard? I need 8 points to win. Do you play Beckham, or do you play Shepard?
I have a mailbag question, and they're right under their exact same thing. 5 points.
5 points. All right, let's put
guy?
that to test right now before we close the show out. You're 5 points behind your opponent.
Well, you got to give Justin in Cleveland.
Justin in Cleveland. 5 points behind in a full PPR. If he's playing, do you play him fresh off the injury, or does Sterling Shepard get him the 5 points?
In a full point PPR, I go Sterling Shepard because I think you'll get 5 in a full point PPR. I mean, Sterling Shepard will have at least 4 catches.
I do not think that is a guarantee with Odell Beckham Jr. if he's active.
Yeah.
So I would say if Odell Beckham Jr. is active and you're at the 5 point mark, I would probably go with Beckham.
I would too.
But I don't think he'll be active. So I think you're going to be deciding between Shepard and Ingram and maybe, Marvin Jones. Whatever you have as your backup plan, be ready because you're not going to find out till late today, and it's an unfortunate situation. Jason, you are an Odell Beckham Jr. owner. Are you concerned with him beyond this week?
No, not in the slightest. Also, breaking news.
Breaking news.
The judge has denied the NFL's emergency motion for a stay in Ezekiel Elliott preliminary injunction.
I'm really glad that came through while we were doing this show.
There you go.
So
keep your Zeke, drop your McFadden.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that simplifies the waiver show. We'll talk more about it.
I've still had a couple of leagues where I've actually still held on to McFadden because I just wanted this to happen. Now he's released.
Will you read that one more time for me?
Breaking. Judge Mazant denies the NFL's emergency motion for a stay of the Ezekiel Elliott preliminary injunction.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure that I was reading it the right way and it wasn't the opposite.
So, Zeke, we believe he's playing all year now.
This year, I believe he's playing all year now.
Okay. All right, that does it.
I'm sure we'll have to talk about it again.
Tomorrow's every day.
They'll do something, and
we're going to do a brand new podcast called The Zeke Report, and it's going to be 8 times a day. And that is it for today's episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Thank you for subscribing, for leaving us reviews on iTunes, and for being a part of our community over at jointhefoot.com. We appreciate it. Check out playdraft.com/ballers for some DFS action in Week 3. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.